So I'm Sumitra. As you know, I'm the curator here. Can you just talk a little bit about what you want to do, and then we'll just have a
Discussion.
yeah.
Okay, this is my second project working with magical fantasy. The previous project that I worked with was on two books, which was an illustrated book of imaginary herbology, and one more was Hortus Mythos Indica, which is adding stories to mythological stories in India. So, give it a twist or make it more interesting. So those two books were done during the COVID, and there was crowdfunding, and I could make the book, and I put up the show at One Shanti Road. And later, 2024 was a period where Dhanya Rajaram, a close friend of mine, or our friend from CKP, uh, she curated a show called as Recipes and Cookbooks, which was uh, she invited quite a few artists to work on recipes and make a cookbook. So it came out in many different forms, different artists working together. But I worked on a series of flowers which were magical in a way. And the reason why I'm kind of interested in magical fantasy is the fact that there are a lot of these magical fantasy books and a series which are coming from these books,
Yeah.
which are there in the form of TV series or films. Of course, the most popular ones are Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings.
But as we
So
were talking about Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman.
yeah, we're talking about Terry Pratchett because there's also this very beautiful film called as The Imaginarium in Parnassus. So that has very strong visual effects, and it is what do you say, uh, fantastic to watch it, but it has a very strong story to it as well,
And
characters
also
to
your
it.
work kind of like talks really about how world building is, right, in any kind of uh, you- any kind of universe that you're trying to build. You need to have elements that are tangible in a way. So when you're talking about magical plants and their uses, that actually sort of creates like a category of things that are used in this world. And then I think
Yeah,
I think for me what's fascinating is that you're very seriously talking about the qualities of these plants and these qualities of these herbs that will contribute to a certain aspect of your being.
correct.
So and also this is often relegated to fantasy and mythological things and like not looked at as serious enough because it goes into a magical play world,
Yeah,
but that world is also important to us, no?
yeah. Because here, what I would like to talk to you about is there are different dimensions to how to look at the world or individuals or communities. So the different kinds of dimensions that we can think of is intellectual, psychological, sexual, social, economic, and so forth, sociological, and religious as well. When you talk about religion, there's also mythological. So all this, but then there is something which is also part of everyday life, which we take it for granted, is the magical quality of life that
Yeah.
we live. We accept magical realism as a valid genre in literature as well as in art. Mythological themes have been rendered in visual arts by
Yeah.
well-known artists throughout through the past many hundred years, couple of hundred years. So this, my focus is how magical realism suddenly gets converted into magical fantasy. So even though both are different territories in a way.
Yeah. Now this works that you've made, now what you've displayed is also like very real uh, descriptions of these plants. And can you just talk about a little bit like yesterday you were mentioning that you didn't paint for a long time, that your artistic body is not necessarily painting. So
Yeah.
why does this particular show become about become your paintings and your words?
Yeah, yeah. So I've been working with objects and sculptures, a lot of artists in the artist community in Bangalore, India, and abroad. That wherever I have displayed my works, there has been a good response to those kind of works, which talk about a certain kind of hard reality of life. But then uh, there were certain experiences which made me look at something which is magical realism, seeing things happening in a very beautiful way, and we accept it as something beautiful as such. But then one also becomes aware of certain things where suddenly things happen according to your will, suddenly things happen in certain way which becomes magical in a way. So also there's been this whole explosion of magical fantasy series which are being produced and broadcasted through OTTs in uh, Netflix or Amazon or
Yeah.
whichever series. So uh, that I was very much interested and watched quite a few of the magical fantasy series. Also, I think we were talking about Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett.
For
So
me, the literature becomes important there because they also talk about magical elements. Like Terry is very cognizant of the fact that magic exists and that there is an unseen university that trains the male wizards, but the female wizards, the witches, are uh, live in villages and mind their own business. So when you talk about magical flowers and you're talking about potions and making something out of those, it also talks about this very real division between what men can do and what women can do. And I think your work is actually trying to tell us that it's not important, that these gender divides are not important,
yeah,
but the whimsical and floral flowers with magical powers is something that we really need to address in this world, because enough shit is going on. And I'm tired of people making art about just spiritual and like something abstract where you're just trying to say that it can be real.
yeah,
So for me this is the fascination point. And also I think I finally understood what you were explaining through Danya, that when she said that you were talking about magical flowers, and immediately I was like, okay, you know what, nobody's doing this. Nobody's actually sort of like not
explored a magical fantasy as a kind of a visual art practice.
yeah, and also that you have a book.
Yeah, and the book is also focusing on making it accessible to this particular book, which is a cookbook of magical flowers with recipes and different themes such as flower of care, flower of courage, flower of hope. Yeah, hope is a reason, flower of reason, flower of intimacy, or a flower of something much more difficult, which is the word immanence, which is a more philosophical word term which is used by philosophers.
And the god making.
Yeah, the God thing. Yeah.
So
God
for me,
complex.
I find that also very political, right? Where you're flipping the narrative and you're basically saying, listen, this god complex has got to stop.
Yeah.
But also there is a recipe to it.
Yeah.
If you find this flower, you can have god complex for what, 45 minutes.
Aspect to this, which is the artist community as such being critical in ways and being focusing on real life problems and with a kind of progressive mindset and being critical of things but wanting to do things for society, which most of them do, have to understand that there is a whole demography or a population of people with alternative practices other than the regular religious practices or atheism, or even for that matter, for most of us as artists, as art as a kind of way of living. There's a whole set of people who practice magic and witchcraft as such.
Yes.
And there are pagans, there are Wiccans, there is chaos magic, there is all kinds of different kinds of practitioners around the world. And if you just check Instagram, you will find whole lot of communities, and there are people with witches who call themselves as witches with 20,000, 50,000 followers, and they have the shops and they sell these things like, and they practice things like candle magic, different kinds of magic forms. So just doing a book just for that, it doesn't work that well.
No.
You also look at the actual practitioners. But my book is little different in the form that I'm not looking at those traditions.
And also you're working towards, you're saying you're producing a set of 500 editions.
Yeah.
And you're physically producing them, so you're your craft is also in the making of it.
Yeah.
You're choosing a particular kind of paper and you've printed it on at home. You've worked to scan these images and put them together, and you've sought out the help of Dhanya to sort of do the copy editing of some of it.
Yeah.
So in that way, your craft is well founded in terms of you're building your own world here,
Yeah.
and you're conscious that you're moving away from the kind of work that you normally do, which is sculptural.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's the art world not accepting, art world being critical of this realm is also a little.
It's a different kind of what to say, dimension,
Yes.
which is accepted only when you have a certain experiences to accept it as such, being what you call rational as such.
Yeah.
So there are dimensions which are very different dimensions that we as artists focus on. So it's also a kind of way of making things fun for that
Yeah, and
matter.
also like
All the books.
there's nothing wrong with making things fun, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The-
Magical fantasy is a valid genre in
Yes.
literature. So I'm looking at when will this become a valid genre in visual arts in India. Of course, it is valid in what you call Western art. There are a lot of artists who are very successful doing magical fantasy.
Here I feel that people have become very serious in their left-orientedness to lose
Yeah.
focus with how important fantasy and literature and speculative fiction is about narrating social order.
Yeah.
Right, science fiction is basically based on your reality. So I think artists need to sort of really take the seriousness down a little
Yeah.
and just
Yeah,
make
yeah.
art, and it's not about just being happy shiny people. It's about finding joy in your work, which is also will make others feel joy in seeing your work.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think
Yeah. So I think we'll let the audience come and
Yes.
see, viewers come and see the works. They can also come and look at the book, which is handmade. I want to say first thing is it's also important to make artworks not just for the art community, academic scene as such, people as such, but then I'm looking at how can you make artworks for a certain age group. Can be for teenagers, can be for high school kids. Like for example, this book is also understood by high school kids in a different way. So I think we've talked enough. Okay, thanks.